Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tess Parker. I'm the Director of Programs for the Anthroposophical Society in America, and I am just overjoyed to welcome you on this winter solstice to our Holy Nights program, Truth, Beauty, and Goodness, working with Raphael's Madonna sequence. So this session is our opening session as we go deeper into the Holy Nights that begin this December 24th. I want to just begin by thanking those who have helped organize this program: Angela Foster, Katrina Hoven, Michelle Mariscal, and Verlin McGilvey. We are just so blessed to have a team of coworkers putting this together. I wanted to mention that we are entering our own kind of sacred space on Zoom. It's what we have to bring us together, and in that spirit, we'll keep the chat silent during this time, and you can feel free to ask any questions to either Angela Foster or Katrina Hoven. So we open our series today on this winter solstice, a moment of taking pause, stillness, the darkest day of the year, to really go within and reflect and nourish ourselves. As we join from near and far and wide and all over the place, I wanted to just take a moment for us to imagine entering a great hall, that this Zoom room is our hall together. So imagine entering in and maybe seeing a large domed ceiling above and finding your seat, maybe catching a glimpse of somebody you know, familiar face, some folks you don't know. Going and settling yourself down and preparing to join in community together. So if you do have a candle, I invite you to light that now. I've lit one for us here. And I just invite everyone to take a moment to get present, take a deep breath, maybe stretch a little. And as you light your candle, or potentially an imagination of a candle, just imagine bringing that light down into your heart. Maybe taking a breath in your heart space. And imagine that warmth emanating out 360 degrees around you, getting bigger, growing, going beyond the four walls of your home, out into your local community, your neighbors' homes, and beyond. And if that warmth can continue growing across the country you're in, across the globe, and connecting to all those who are joining us on this program, almost 1,000 right now, maybe more. And even to those who are not joining us, those who need healing, those who need love and support at this time of year. Extending that warmth in your heart as far as it can reach. And then just coming back to yourself and remaining centered as we begin. So, thank you. This session that we have today, we're working with Raphael's Madonna images, the Zodiac and the 13 Holy Nights with Brian Gray, and we'll have Eurythmy with Alice Stamm at the end and throughout. So I'm just so encouraged by this moment for us to all, those of you who said yes to joining this time. I think we're all here to find that nourishing, healing power of these images of the Madonna. This program is just coming at the right time, I think, to help balance all of this chaos in the world. And if we can all kind of let this program be a guide, while we're here and beyond, to find that kind of contemplative power of this time and access that nourishing and soul supporting power of these images. So I'm going to introduce Brian to our stage, who will help. This session is really meant to provide a context for these images, because once we begin during the Holy Nights, we'll just kind of dive right into a contemplation, and some of it will be without too much words, because it's really meant to work with the image and let it work upon you, and to have that kind of conversation inwardly. So this session is really meant to kind of give this overview and context and framework for you to go deeper. And Brian Gray is a teacher, longtime teacher and student of anthroposophy, as well as astrology and astrosophy. He's an author, musician, architect, man of many, many talents. So he will share some of his wisdom with us today. Thank you, Brian, for being here.
Thank you, Tess, very much. Can you hear me? Is everybody, yes? Good, thank you. Good. So welcome to all of you who are participating, and thank you, Angela and Tess and Katrina and everyone who's made this possible. We're going to take a look at the sequence of images that Britta Steiner selected between 1908 and 1911. Britta Steiner selected 15 images, mostly from Raphael's paintings, and there was one Donatello relief and one Michelangelo sculpture in the series as well. But these 15 images, Britta Steiner, working with Dr. Felix Pipers, began to arrange these in a particular sequence, in a particular order. And there's a reason why he did so. And what I'd like to do, he did say something in 1909 just about the role of art in relationship to mystery wisdom. And this is the quote from 1909. This is from the lecture called Isis and Madonna on April 29th, 1909. In the different arts, we are presented with different languages that give expression to certain truths living in the human soul. They are often the most secret truths, the most secret knowledge, which cannot readily be reduced to rigid concepts, nor clothed in abstract formula, but seek artistic expression. So friends, these images, we will be talking about these images and describing them and asking you to take them in more and more deeply. But I think before we do any kind of conceptual work with them, what I'd like you to do is actually, I'm going to show the 15 images in the sequence. I'm not going to speak very much at all. I'm just going to show you the sequence of images, and I will keep each one on the screen for several seconds, and then we'll move on to the next one. And I'd really like you to look very carefully, to not just gaze blankly, but rather to contemplate, to really observe each image, and begin, notice the movement of the relationship of the position of the mother and the child. Of course, you can certainly take little notes in your mind as you go, but mostly I would like you just to behold the images and have the artistic experience and the mystery wisdom of the sequence work upon you without any verbal explanation to begin with. We will then be going into much more detail about each image. So that's the way I would like to start, if you're willing to do that. I'm going to try to share a screen here and see if we can get this to work. So let me see here. So we're all set here. So this is a book that I put together to describe these things, and its booklet is available, and I'll give you references to it and where you can get it. You can get it actually from Winstones Press in England. But so this was first published in 2013, and it is available online. But so much of what I'm saying will be available in this form. But now we're going to take a look at the images. So here we go. We're going to look at these images in sequence. Sorry, dear friends, I've had trouble getting the sequence to work. So we are going to start once again with that sequence. And I'll just take them one at a time. This is the first image. Second. Okay, dear friends. So this was the image. This is the sequence of images that we've been looking at. And you may have noticed that we started with this image here in the upper left corner. We can see that there are a number of images. There are three images that are outside the pentagon. The pentagon, the five-sided figure here, contains most of the image along one of its lines. But there are three setting images. There's the overall image of the Sistine Madonna up here in the upper left. And then there is the head of the transfigured Christ at the center of the pentagon. The center of the pentagram right there is the head of the transfigured Christ, which is the second setting image. And then there's a third image, which is the figure of the transfigured Christ up in the upper right corner. Otherwise, the sequence of images starts with this image down below, and it moves up. So you can see that, in fact, what's happening is that the mother and child are focusing on one another, and the child is beginning to ascend up the child is actually standing on the feet of the mother. We'll look in more detail. And then the child is moving up the lower leg, and then the same image, but more details on the middle leg. And then the mother and the child has come all the way up to the forehead, and the mother has turned the child and down to the other direction. And so we see in this Donatello relief at the top of the sequence, the image of the mother and the child together. Then we come down to the lower right, all the way down to the lower right, and we see this is the next image. And both figures are now, the focus is more on the left side of the mother. Then the child goes across the lap of the mother, here at the bottom of the where the crossing point is of the two legs, and then the child continues on up to the right side of the mother, where the Sistine Madonna detail is shown on the left side of the image of the pentagram, and then all the way over to the right. The child is now on the left side of the mother, and their hearts are touching. And between those two images then is where the head will appear in the sequence, which is really, you could say, at the heart of the five-pointed star. And then we return to the descending movement of the child held on the left side, the hearts touching, and the image here at the right side of the figure, and then moving down. The child is moving downward back toward the foot, to the left, to our left foot, as the child is moving down and moving down. Then we come to these last two images, and the final image in the child sequence is this one, which is very similar somewhat to the one in which we started with. And then we have the transfigured Christ image at the top as the final image. So this is the sequence of images, and we could say that they were arranged in this particular order for a particular reason. And Rudolf Steiner, when he spoke about these images, he says, of course, the human being, we have a physical body, and we have the 12 constellations of the Zodiac, which are shaping the physical body. And the physical body consists of the head and the neck and the throat and the symmetry of the body and the rib cage and so forth. We'll go into detail with that with each image. And there are 12 images on the lines of the pentagram. So we'll see that, in fact, the 12, each of the 12 constellations of the Zodiac is represented here by one of the images. We'll go into that sequence soon. But in addition to the physical body, which is shaped by the 12 constellations of the Zodiac, there is also the etheric body, which is the vitality, the dynamic that keeps our physical body from becoming too hardened. It is the forces of life are their etheric forces. And the etheric forces are represented in this particular sequence, if you will. They're represented through the fact that the images are moving up, but the child is moving in relationship to the position the mother is and the child are moving together. And you could say the pattern of movement is connected very deeply with the movement of the etheric body, which continues to animate and to keep alive the physical body. So we have the etheric body is then represented by the movement pattern of the child through the sequence of the five-pointed star. But then we have the astral body, which is our body of consciousness. And these images have a healing effect, they have an ordering effect upon the astral body. First of all, Rudolf Steiner says that Raphael's portrayals of the divine human form, he says Raphael is valued so highly because to a greater degree than any other painter, Raphael was able to clothe the spiritual in sense perceptible representation. So these images are all working upon, you could say, on purifying our astral body. The movement between the pictures is working on the refinement and the forces working through our etheric body. And the combination of the colors and the images working in the astral body and the soul, working upon the movement patterns of the etheric body, which is moving through the physical body, they work to have a healing effect upon the person who participates in them and pays attention to these images. And Rudolf Steiner said back in ancient Egypt, there was a period of time in history where we still could remember the being, the divine mother, who was really, you could say, birthing the human being out of the spirit and beginning to birth the human form, and was really the healer and the mother of all of humanity. And he says we began to lose touch with this being, this holy Isis being. In Egypt, she was called Isis, but we have lost touch with her. Um, and she was known in the mystery temples and in the healing temples by the priest initiates. And they would take a person who was an invalid or a person who was ill, and they would put them into a temple sleep, and they could influence the images working in their dream life and in their sleep life, and they could therefore call on images of the holy Isis, who would then help heal the astral body and the etheric body and the physical body. So the temple sleep was part of the means by which healing was done in ancient Egypt. And now this all we began to lose touch with holy Isis, with the mother of humanity, which we see represented beautifully in the Sistine Madonna and in all of these images. We began to lose touch with her at the event known as the Fall, back in the period known as Lemuria, when the human beings divided into male or female, etheric bodies divided into male or female, and we began to procreate through sexual reproduction. Rudolsteiner says prior to this, there was no death as such. We still had perception of spiritual beings. We didn't have a strong sense of ourself, but we could perceive the spiritual beings very directly. And so there was no death, but there was also not a very strong sense of self. But with the fall, with Adam and Eve and the beginning of sexual reproduction, holy Isis began to vanish from our perception, and we began to suffer illness and gradually death as a result of our deeds. So karma began to hold sway as we began to incarnate in the middle of Lemuria. And since that time, the memory of Isis continued to live in the mystery temples up until Egypt, up until the period of Egyptian period time. Gradually, they faded during the time of the Greco-Roman period, and in our modern time, it takes someone like the painter Raphael to recreate the images and to be able to help spiritually get us back into touch with these beautiful forces streaming from the divine Isis, the holy Isis, who is our mother. So that's what we're looking at. And Rudolf Steiner says these images can have a healing effect upon our bodies, particularly if we can take the images in so deeply in our contemplation that we can then dream about them when we go to sleep. Because if we can dream about them, that means that those forces of the images are working deeply into our etheric body and can then bring about a healing in our physical body. So this sequence of images has a healing effect. And the five-pointed star is a particular image. And Rudolf Steiner also gave the sketch. He drew the sketch and said, there are various etheric currents which move through the physical body. And he says there are many such currents, but one current begins with the left foot, which we're looking at the front of this person. So the left foot, the currents begin at the left foot, which would be our lower, we would see on our lower right side down here. But the currents begin with the left foot, and then they move up toward the forehead, and then they come down to the right foot, and then over to the left hand, and then to the right hand, and then back down to the left foot. And they turn and continue back up to the head, back down to the right foot, back up to the left arm, across to the right arm, and back down to the foot, and so forth. So he says this is a current, this particular etheric current is particularly active in keeping and maintaining our human uprightness. But he says there are many such currents, but this current is particularly significant to us. And so he has arranged the sequence of images in this five-pointed star because they have a particular healing effect. This sketch is actually from Rudolf Steiner's sketch. And what we find is, in fact, now the sequence that we're going to look at, we are now going to look at these images, but as though we're looking in a mirror. So instead of the right foot being down here where number 6 is, and the left foot being where, well, instead of the left foot being where 6 is, and the right foot being where number 2 is, we're now looking at image number 2 as though it's our left foot, image number 8 as though it's our left hand, image number 9 is our right hand, image number 6 is at our right foot, and of course our head is our head. So it's as though we're gazing upon these images, but the images are actually calling for us to perceive the currents, not by having to reverse to turn around, but rather to see those forces directly. So we start from an image, which is the very first image, which is the Sistine Madonna image. And that's the overall image which we are seeing here. Now, Alice, I wonder if you would like to say something about this overall image. We do see, I can just state very briefly, we do see the pattern of a 5-pointed star in this image itself. If you think of the mother, you think of these two angels at the bottom, these two cherubs, if you will, representing the forces of the feet. And so this would be there would be a current shown from this to the head of the mother, to the other foot, to the what we will see as our left and our right hand, and back down again. So anyway, we do see that there is this beautiful pattern of the 5-pointed star. Anything you would like to add to this, Alice? Alice Stamm.
Only that you can see in the background, all around the mother's head, in the clouds, so to speak, little children's heads, as if out of a whole background of before-bornness, pre-bornness, about to be bornness, comes this image.
Yes, thank you. And speaking about these heads of children in the cloud images behind the mother, Rudolf Steiner says the artist is surrounded in Madonna with clouds, out of which develop a great number of similar little children, a crowd of angelic forms. Do not these cloud angels surrounding the Madonna say something to us? Yes, something whispers in our soul. Here before us is a miracle in the best sense of the word. We do not think that this child whom the mother bears in her arms is born the ordinary way from the woman. No, these wonderful, delicate, and angel forms that we see in the clouds seem to be in the process of development. And the child in the Madonna's arms seems to be only a more condensed manifestation of them. Something that had crystallized somewhat more than the fleeting angelic forms, which seems as if brought them down from the clouds and held fast in her arms. It is thus that this child appears to us, not as if born from the woman. We are directed to a mysterious connection between the child and the Virgin Mother. If we try to make a picture of the soul that gives birth to the higher human being out of itself, out of the spiritual universe, we need only call to mind the picture of the Sistine Madonna. In the Sistine Madonna, we have a picture of the human soul, born of the spiritual universe, and springing from the soul, the highest that a human being can bring forth, the human being's own spiritual birth. What within the human being is a new begetting of cosmic creative activity. This quote is from Isis and Madonna, April 29th, 1909. So we are now going to begin the sequence of images that lie along the 5-pointed star itself. This is the setting image, the Sistine Madonna as a whole. We're now going to go to this image, which is connected with the constellation of Pisces. Alice, would you lead us?
Brian, is it possible to stop your screen share so we could see Alice full
Yes,
screen?
yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alice. So we are looking at this image of the let me see, I have to get back to this. Here we go. Can you see? Yes. Okay. So we see this image which is connected with the fishes. And friends, if you look at the figure, we have two children here. There's a child carrying a cross on the left side. There's a child on the right side of which it would be her right side. We see a child on the left. And actually, if you notice, that child is standing on the foot of the mother. So the mother's foot, the child is standing with his 2 feet on the mother. The mother's hands are holding the child's back and arm. The child is touching the mother's knee and wrist. The other child is holding the cross and keeping in one hand is visible, and both feet are visible, and both feet of the mother are visible. This is the only image, I think, where we'll see such a clear picture of the 3 figures with 3 hands, or rather 6 hands, yes, the 3 pairs of hands, 6 hands, and 6 feet, all clearly visible. And the image, you could say the child standing on the foot is a picture that this is connected with Pisces, which is connected to the zodiacal constellation, which forms our hands and our feet. And so this image, we see this beautiful picture of Pisces at the beginning of the sequence, which would be down at, and we could imagine again, this is now calling forth, as we contemplate this image, we're calling forth currents that are streaming from our left foot upward toward the direction of our head. And in fact, as the child is gazing up to the mother, we see something of that gesture beginning to move, because we'll see that the next image is going to be Aquarius. Alice, would you like to speak to this? I will stop the share. Thank you. Thank you, Alice. So friends, what I failed to tell you about the first image, the foot, I will try to go back to that just for a moment. We're now looking at the constellation of Aquarius, which Alice has beautifully given us the eurythmy gesture for. I'm going to try to go back to the previous image just to see the, I wanted to speak about the, sorry, I'm moving in the wrong direction, previous. So in this image, with the image of the, sorry, and the image of Pisces, the sense that there are 12 senses also connected with these images. And you could say particularly the emphasis on the hands and feet is particularly, you could say, the sense of touch, which in a certain way is the most physical sense of the limb nature, the sense of touch, which we have in our hands. And of course, our feet are continually touching the earth. So anyway, the sense of touch was the sense connected with the Pisces image. Now, as we move, as Alice has just given us the gesture of Aquarius, Aquarius forms the lower arms, the forearms, and the lower legs of the human being, which we see emphasized in this particular image. We also see, in a certain sense, this is connected. So Aquarius, we see this watery background, and of course there are mountains and distant fields and the background, and the child moving up now, moving up the toward the head region, but still on the right side of the mother's right side, which is our left side. So we see this movement of the etheric body up what for us is our left side, and we see this gesture. And the sense of Aquarius is the sense of life and vitality. Both the mother and child are gazing off into the distance, but they're filled with vitality. You feel with the rosy cheeks and the happy gaze. There's a sense of freedom and a sense of aliveness and vitality, which is present in this image of Aquarius, this image, the sense of life and the gesture of Aquarius. So now we're going to see a detail of this image as the third image is the image along the pentagon, which is the fourth image in our sequence. And this is connected with the forces of Capricorn. So Alice, I will ask you once again to give us the gesture of Capricorn. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alice. So with the image of Capricorn, we are now focusing, you can say, although this is the same image, by the way, the same planet is associated as the so-called ruling planet of Capricorn and Aquarius. So it's appropriate for Udasana to repeat the Aquarius image and the Capricorn image. But here he's focusing more in the center of the image. We see now more of an emphasis on the knees and, of course, the elbows of the child and so forth. And we begin to realize that Capricorn is connected with the elbows and the knees. And because those are all the joints in the body, anywhere two bones come together, there is a relationship between those two bones. And the relationship we call the joints. And the joints allow us to be flexible and allow us to move. So the sense of self-movement is connected also with the joints, because if our bones were all firmly rigidified and we had no joints, we would not be able to move at all. It's due to our joints and the flexibility and the relationship that our joints have to one another that allow the more rigid bones to flexibly move and to allow us to experience our own self-movement. So the sense of self-movement is the sense connected with Capricorn, and the knees and the elbows and all the joints in the body are connected with Capricorn as well. Capricorn is also the realm, whereas the angels live in the realm of Aquarius in the previous image. The archangels, the spirits of fire, live in the region of Capricorn. And Capricorn is deeply connected with our astral body as well. So our inner experiences are also there. So one feels this wonderful relationship to vitality and to life. Now we're going to go to the next image in the sequence, which is Sagittarius. Alice. Thank you, Alice. So in this constellation of Sagittarius, the Archer, Sagittarius forms the longest and the longest bones in the body, which are the upper legs and the thigh bones, and the upper arms. The upper arms and the upper legs are formed by Sagittarius, and of course that includes the muscles which attach them to the shoulders and also to the lower arms. So it is actually the strength and the power of the archer, of Sagittarius the archer, that gives us this strength to hold ourselves upright and to a certain sense. And so it's appropriate that Sagittarius is right at the very top of the images. And it is also, we realize how strong the mother has to be. She's holding the child up and their foreheads are touching. We also see the direction of movement arrested from the moving from what would be our lower left up to the head. Now we begin to see the movement is going to be moving from the head downward toward what we would experience as our right foot. And the strength with which he's holding that child is due to the strength in her upper arms and upper body, that she has the strength and this resolve to be able to hold the child upright in that particular form. We also find that it is the spirits of time and spirits of personality. The archi dwell in Sagittarius, the archer. And by the way, this place where the two brows are touching each other, it's almost as though they are contemplating and experiencing each other's thoughts through telepathic communication as their brows touch. But there's this beautiful sense of Jupiter, which is connected with the brow chakra, the two-petal lotus at the brow. And Jupiter is the ruling planet of Sagittarius. And so there's this kind of focus and this attention and this resolve and that one experiences. And by beholding this is the image by Donatello, the relief by Donatello. And we also note that the center of the Milky Way galaxy is found in the constellation of the Archer. And some, Robert Powell and others, astronophers, and I myself included, have come to feel that this center is the place where the center of the galactic center around Milky Way, there in Sagittarius, is also, you could say, this is a focal point where we can most directly experience the world of the Father. In any case, so we have this beautiful image of Sagittarius now. And now we're going to see that in the next image, we're going to move, now the direction is going to be moving from the head down to what we would experience as our right foot, the current moving from the head to our right foot in the next image. And the next image is Scorpio. So we have Alice to give us the gestures for Scorpio. Thank you, Alice. So, so with this image now of Scorpio, we see that we have moved all the way down. The focus of the gesture has moved from the head down to what we experience is on our right side. But the child is now, but the interesting thing about this image is we're going to see this image again at the very end of our sequence. But in this image, whereas we've been seeing one child unclothed several times, an innocent unclothed child, in a certain way we can say the genital region of the unclothed, the innocent unclothed child is covered, it's veiled. This is part of the mystery of Scorpio, and because Scorpio is the region which used to be called the eagle, and this is, by the way, the Madonna of the goldfinch, and the eagle was the bird that brought thoughts out of the region of the sun to the human being. So through the eagle, we were able to conceive thoughts. with the fall of human beings and with the beginning of sexual procreation, the eagle descended down and became actually more connected with the scorpion in a certain sense. And the scorpion is connected with the sting of death, of course, but it is also in the forming of the reproductive organs. The genital region is deeply connected, of course, with sexual reproduction. And it was with sexual reproduction that we began to lose touch with the holy Isis. So because these images are hearkening back to a time before sexual reproduction began, the veiling of the genitals of this child is appropriate to call forth the pure image of the human being, you could say, before the genitals became so significant. The sense connected with Scorpio is connected with a sense of smell. And of course, we know that smell and aroma has a great deal of, it stimulates our inner feelings and can stimulate our desires. For the perfume industry knows that very well, as do the deodorant industries and all the others. But we begin to sense this sense of smell as can be a very stimulating sense, and can be also stimulating a sense of procreation. By the way, the eagle has come down and become the goldfinch, you could say. So the bird which is being shared there, petted by the two children, is actually, you could say, it's an aspect of the eagle, which is still there to remind us of the purity of the original form of conceiving thoughts from this realm. This is Scorpio. Now, I'd failed to mention in the previous slide that the Sagittarius gesture is the gesture of balance. That was the gesture connected with the archer. So we're moving from balance in Sagittarius down to the sense of smell in Scorpio. And now we're going to move to the image of Libra. Alice will give us the image for Libra. Thank you, Alice. So in this image of Libra, quite a beautiful image. It is really one of the most dynamic and beautiful images I think that Raphael has painted. We see the child now moving across the lap of the mother. And of course, the lap region is the region of the pelvis, which is shaped by the forces which dwell in the beings who dwell in the region of Libra, the scales, the balance. And so it is also interesting to note that the dynamis, the spirits of motion, are the spirits who have their home, whereas Scorpio is a region of the exousiae, the spirits of form. We just looked at Scorpio. The dynamis, the spirits of motion, dwell in the region of Libra. And you feel as though Raphael has captured that sense of movement and motion. The child is dynamically twisting and turning and gazing up at his mother, and she has her two hands in parallel gesture in a certain sense with the direction of his body. But we see also the direction of movement, moving from the right, what would be our right foot, across the lap up toward the left arm, which will be the next image. So we have these mysteries connected with Libra. Now, the sense which is connected with Libra is the sense of taste, whereas Scorpio was smell. We're now in the soul senses. The sense of smell is where actually a bit of the substance itself strikes your nasal membrane. In the sense of smell, you have an immediate sense of the aroma of something with the sense of smell. With a sense of taste, the process of digestion, as soon as you touch something to your tongue, the process of digestion begins. And now you begin to feel there's a kind of joyful movement You notice it when you feed your pets, when you feed your animals, feed your dog or your cat some food, they immediately they get right in there, and they really love to eat. They love the taste. They love the nourishment that it gives them. And my mother always used to say, the sense of the the love of food is the most sincere form of love that we know. And so you also begin to get a sense that this child is really, there's a sense of taste, a sense of the joy of the sense of taste, and the beauty of and the peaceful relationship that they have, even in this very dynamic gesture. The mother is very much at rest, and the child is very dynamic. The contrast between the two is also striking. There's a kind of balance there. So this was the constellation of Libra and the sense of taste. And we're now going to go to the image of Virgo itself. Alice will bring it to us. Thank you, Alice. So we're now in the region we're moving to the region of Virgo. And Virgo, of course, sorry, this is actually Leo. Sorry, I have to go back. I can find my cursor here.
You're doing amazingly well, Brian, at managing all these things. Thank you.
You're very kind. Thank you. So we're back. Now, this is a detail of the first image, which was the image of the Sistine Madonna as an entire painting. And there's something very unusual about this particular image in the whole sequence. This is the only time where the mother and the child are gazing, and it's almost as though they're gazing out at us. Don't you have a sense that they are both filled with a kind of a joyful expectation and a hope and an anticipation? And it's like they're calling us to awaken to some particular mystery. And you could say Virgo is connected, of course, with the digestive organs, the organs of it's the womb and the feminine organism, and it is the organs of digestion and the intestines and so forth. The whole digestive process is connected there with the Virgin. But it is also there's this intense inwardness, and the spirits of wisdom, the Caryatides, are the spirits who dwell in the region of Virgo. And the spirits of wisdom, you could say they serve Sophia. The name Sophia, of course, means wisdom. So this is the being of wisdom and her giving birth to her child, who is really a pure child of love. And now you could say the sense connected with Virgo is the sense of sight. And we see it beautifully portrayed here by the fact that of all the 15 images, that this is the only time where the mother and child are gazing out at us. This is beautiful sense of connectedness there, and of the sense of sight. So we move now to the next image, which is connected with Leo. Of course, we have moved now from the child on the right side to the child on the left side. And Alice will tell us about the gesture for Leo. Give us a gesture for Leo. Thank you. I'd like you in particular to remember that gesture of flaming enthusiasm where the arms are raised above her head. Quite a beautiful gesture, part of Leo. So Leo is connected, of course, with the heart forces. And whereas we saw in the previous image, the Virgo image, the Sistine Madonna, she was holding her child on her right side, which is the liver side. And of course, we feel more of the heart forces on our left side. So here we find the mother, we've crossed, we've moved from the left side of, for us, what would be the left side to the right side of the figure. But we are looking at the hearts of these two. The heart of the child and the heart of the mother are touching one another. And one feels this tremendous warmth and this tremendous intimacy and enthusiasm, being filled with wisdom, being filled with God. The word enthusiasm and theos means to be in God. And so this feeling, this sense of warmth is the sense connected with the lion, with Leo. And the heart forces, which are also connected, of course, in a certain beautiful way with all the life forces, and all the life processes are connected through the heart. And the heart is really the center organ of our body. And flaming enthusiasm, warmth and enthusiasm and joy are very much a part of this gift of this particular region of Leo, the lion. So we will now move from Leo to the region. Now here we go to, this is in fact, there's not a, we're now at the setting image again. We're going to be in the center of the image, and we find here the head of the transfigured Christ. There's not a zodiacal constellation per se represented here, but when we look at the full sequence once again, we will say, just as we saw the setting image of the entire Sistine Madonna in the beginning, if you can recall, it was a mother surrounded, the mother holding the child, surrounded by the angelic faces of children in the clouds and so forth. We could say this is a mother birthing a child who will enter into the body. And the fact that we have now the head of Christ at the very center of this, you could say, what is an adult image of the Christ doing in the sequence of all the children? And one can begin to understand the mystery here, that the head of the transfigured Christ at the heart of the pentagram is showing us that the child that the mother was bearing from Virgo into existence is a child which will grow up when it is 30 years of age. It will receive the cosmic spirit of the Son being known as the Logos, or the Lamb of God, or the Christ. So here, and between the ages of 30 to 33, the Christ enters into the body of Jesus and completely transforms the body. It becomes the ego of the body, and through the processes of the 3 years, purifies the astral body, the etheric body, and the physical body, and then unites with the earth through the event of the crucifixion, and then reappears in the ascension. And so in any case, we begin to feel that this image of the head of the transfigured Christ at the center is also beginning to speak to something of the vitality and the life that this being brings to the earth. So I'm not going to ask Alice for a zodiacal image here, but we're going to move now on to the next image, which is the image of Cancer. And Alice, would you please give us the eurythmy gestures for Cancer, the crab? Lovely. Thank you so much, Alice. So the crab is also, this to me is one of the most remarkable images in the sequence, because whereas we saw in the image, for instance, of the Sistine Madonna, where the mother and child were gazing out upon us directly, here you feel that both of their eyes, the mother's eyes are slightly downturned and inward. The child is also gazing slightly downward and inward. There's an inwardness going on, and the tilt of their heads very slightly to one side and the other, and begins, and the fact that the child has his hands on the breastplate, on the chest of the mother, and the mother is touching the child's chest. The Cancer, the crab, is the region of the rib cage, the 12 pairs of ribs. And Rudolf Steiner has revealed to us that the 12 pairs of ribs are the region of Cancer is the region of the cherubim, which are the spirits of the harmonies. And the spirits of the harmonies are the ones who perceive streaming from the cosmos a harmony of the spheres, and their job is to orchestrate and conduct that symphony of creation. So it's almost as though what we're beholding here is the image of a child and a mother inwardly listening to the harmony of the spheres. It's as though they're hearing this beautiful symphony. And you can tell by the slight smile and the inward gaze and the inward gesture. And it's like they're listening to this most beautiful symphony. Don't you see it? Don't you hear it? It's just remarkable in this gesture. The cherubim, by the way, I failed to say that in the region of Leo, you had the spirits of courage and sacrifice. And this Leo is the previous image. Those were called the thrones, the spirits of will. Here we have the cherubim, the spirits of the harmonies, working through the crab and the rib cage. And each of the 12 pairs of ribs represents one of the 12 tones of the musical scale, which is also attuned to the human soul and to the cosmos. So we're now going to move from Cancer to the and this is the sense of hearing. Of course, the sense of hearing is connected with Cancer. Now we're going to move to Gemini, and Alice will give us the gestures for Gemini. Thank you, Alice. Beautiful. So Gemini is also a kind of mystery, because you have a sense, first of all, Gemini is connected. We know that Gemini is usually, we think of Gemini as the region of the twins. And usually one twin, in some mythologies, one twin, Castor and Pollux, one is mortal, one is immortal, but the two together, they form quite a team, but they're opposite in nature. We see a kind of opposition going on in this gesture, which is the gesture of Gemini, this image, which is connected with, called the Madonna of the fish. We see that the mother is sitting on the throne, if you will, and the child, we have not mentioned the mother and the book, but the book has been there in many of the images that we've seen. Here we have the child actually with his hand in the book, and her arm is his gesture is that he's sitting on the edge of the chair, the edge of her throne, and it's like he wants to reach down and enter into incarnation, and her hand is actually touching him, and a parallel gesture to his forearm, and she, in a certain sense, is trying to hold him back. And I sense in her gaze that she's concerned. She knows that he has a mission, and she has been reading the book. She knows very well what is written, that this child must incarnate. But you feel as though there's a sense of concern and love, maternal love on her part. She wants to protect him from incarnating too quickly, from getting involved too deeply, because she has read and that she knows from her inner wisdom that this child will have to go through the gate of death. She's trying to protect her child on the one hand, but the child seems eager to incarnate and wants to get in and participate. And it's quite a beautiful dynamic. The parallel arms, of course, give away the symbol of gesture, the symbol of Gemini, the twins as well. And the sense of Gemini is connected with the region of the seraphim, the spirits of love. Here, on the one hand, we have the love of the mother for the child, which is a selfless love. And on the other hand, we have the love of the child for the mother and for humanity, wanting to incarnate and do what is written. So this is connected with the sense of language, or the sense of the word, the sense of language. What is written, I must fulfill what is written. So anyway, this is beautiful sense of language in Gemini, and that's the image we're looking at in the Madonna of the fish. And the seraphim and the spirits of love are working through this constellation very directly. So now we'll go to the next image, which is Taurus. And Alice will give us the gesture of Taurus. Thank you, Alice. Beautiful. So with the constellation of Taurus, again, perhaps Rudolf Steiner could not find a Raphael image that fully suited this, but we do feel that there's this beautiful sense in Michelangelo's sculpture of the child descending downward. The child is no longer sitting on the arm of the chair. The child is now moving with willful determination, and the will is part of Taurus, this willful determination. And the gesture of Taurus is also connected with the limb system and the will forces and the deed. But Taurus is also connected, as we know, it's the shaping, the constellation of Taurus, the beings who, well, you could say the being who dwells in Taurus, we know as the Holy Spirit, the spirit of understanding. And this region of the Zodiac, the being of Taurus, the beings working through Taurus are shaping the ears and the mouth and the throat and the larynx and the sense of speech. And so the sense of speech and hearing is deeply connected in a certain sense with Taurus as well. But you could say what we have here in this particular gesture, particularly in Michelangelo, there's a very solemn, intent look on the face of the mother and on the face of the child. There's this intention, this thought, this thoughtful intention. You feel as though they're not just kind of blindly letting go. They have an intention. The mother has to kind of will herself to let her child incarnate. And the child, you feel, with this gesture, is very definitely on his way into incarnation. There's this beautiful gesture of will and of thought. So you could say that the sense connected with Taurus is the sense of thought, whereas Cancer is connected with the sense of hearing, and Gemini with the sense of language. Here we have the sense of thought in Taurus, the bull. And now we go to the final image in this particular portion. And this is connected with Aries, the ram. And Alice will now give us the gesture for Aries. Thank you, Alice. Absolutely beautiful. So with the constellation of Aries, the ram, we have the same image which we saw at the what would be our right foot. We now see the same image, but now the mystery of the veiling of the lower portion, the veiling of the genitals of the unclothed innocent child is taken away. And that's because we are now at the purest sense of, we're at the region of the Lamb of God. And Aries is connected with, of course, the forces of Aries, the beings who dwell in Aries, shape the upper head, the brain, the nervous system, the eyes, and everything connected with our ability to really make sense of the world. Aries, the head, the nervous system allows us to process and form thoughts about those. And Aries, and we see it beautifully represented in this particular gesture, the sense of Aries is the sense of the eye of the other. And again, if we were to review all the images once again, we'd see this is the only image where we saw it, of course, in the Scorpio image as well, but where the two children are interacting with each other. And they're really as though they're not interacting only with the mother. The mother, of course, is watching this interaction, but is the sense of the eye of the other, the sense of the ego of the other. They're sharing, of course, the bird, which represents the thoughts of the ego, but they're sharing it in a loving way. And it's really like as though they're gazing upon each other, and you feel this love and this respect for one another. Now you could say these children, and I'm not going to try to conjecture which child is which and so forth, but you could say if we imagined one of these children to be John the Baptist, the older one, and the younger one to be Jesus, there's a deep relationship between these two. And there are other ways to look at these two children as well. But certainly this recognition that they have come together to do something on behalf of humanity, and they are, by golly, going to fulfill it. So this is Aries. This is the Lamb of God, and the gesture is the eye of the other. Now the final image in the sequence. So we are now completed the pentagram forms, the pentagram shapes. And the final image we see now is the transfigured Christ, the picture of the Christ at the transfiguration. And now we see that the Christ is unhindered. The transfigured Christ appears to be floating and his body radiating warmth and light. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, we understand that he began his whole vitality. He began to radiate light like he was the sun, and so we begin to get a sense that once we have achieved a complete incarnation through our physical bodies, through repeatedly incarnation to our physical bodies, gradually we will attain a higher sense of self, and we will transform our astral body to spirit self. And we will no longer incarnate directly into a physical body. Our lowest member will then be the etheric body. And the etheric body is not bound by the forces of gravity. And the etheric body is the body of levity. And we see in this image of the transfiguration a picture of the future of humanity in a certain sense. That is, our lowest member, we will be the etheric body. We will no longer be bound by the forces of gravity. But we will have these life forces and this higher sense of who we actually are as a spiritual being. So this, in a certain way, concludes the images. This is the last image in the Madonna sequence. And we once again gaze upon the sequence as we saw it. And in terms of the images, once again, the setting images, the mother and the child in the upper left corner, and the mother giving birth to the child, preparing the child who will receive the cosmic I am, the cosmic Christ, the Lamb of God. We then see in the heart, the setting image, in the middle of the pentagon, the pentagram, the head of the transfigured Christ. As the second image, the incarnation of the adult, the incarnation, the growth of the child to the stage of 30 years of age, so that between 30 and 33, the cosmic spirit of life, the Christ being the Lamb of God, can enter into the body of Jesus for 3 years and penetrate and purify the bodies and unite with the earth and kindle the eye for all of humanity. And then the liberation of the transfigured Christ, showing in a certain sense the future of humanity, is that we will begin to live in the etheric body, and we will be free in a certain sense of the physical body. And now when we go back and look at these images once again in relationship to we can see that we started with the overall image in the first image. We then went to Pisces, which was connected with the sense of touch, and then to Aquarius, which was the sense of life, and Capricorn, the sense of self-movement, and Sagittarius, the sense of balance, and then down to Scorpio, the sense of smell, and across to Libra, the sense of taste, and Virgo, the sense of sight, and Leo, the sense of warmth, and finally, and down to and then to the head of the transfigured Christ and the center of the pentagram, and then down to Cancer, connected with the sense of hearing, Gemini with the sense of language, to Taurus, the sense of thought, and finally to Aries, the sense of the eye of the other. So we have this quite beautiful image, if you will. Goodness gracious, how do I get out of this? There we go. So what we have here, in a certain sense, is that the Raphael Madonna sequence, which includes a Donatello and a Michelangelo image, that this sequence really gives us a picture of the history of humanity and the history of each of us, because each of us has been born from the holy Isis. We have an earthly mother, which has born us now through sexual reproduction, but we have a divine mother who works to heal us. And Rudolf Steiner says, as we contemplate these images, and if we can begin to dream about the images, and then those images will have a healing effect upon our astral body, our etheric body, and our physical body. So we begin to get a sense that these images are really apocalyptic, that we, in a beautiful way, are drawing back the veil of these high mysteries. And if you want to purchase a set of cards, the Madonna card set, you can get it from Windstones Press. This is the information. You can go, if you go to the website windstonespress.com, and there is a place where you will find the Madonna card set. The Healing Forces is called the Healing Forces of the Madonna series, the Madonna card set. And you can also buy at the Windstone site, you could get a copy if you wish for under $15 of the book that I have written called Discovering the Zodiac and the Raphael Madonna series, which describes much of what we've been talking about here, and also includes a number of sources and quotes that we were not able to cover today. So this effectively, you could say, this closes the part of the presentation that I have images for, and I am now going to go back to regular screen. And I want to thank Alice Stamm very much for what you have shared with us through the eurythmy gestures. Alice, God bless you. Absolutely beautiful work that you have given us. Thank you so much. And you really help bring those images and the gestures to life through the eurythmy forms that you have demonstrated for us. Thank you so kindly. Thank you. Good. Alice,
Yes.
do you have any closing words or anything you'd like to say?
I'll pass it on to Alice shortly for her section.
Thank you, Tess. All right.
Unless you had something you needed now, Alice. But I just wanted to come on and thank you both so much. There's so much that you just gave us there, and each thread can be, expanded into just a wider inquiry and mystery. And it just, you've given us so much to start with, and in our own contemplation of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Tess.
And it's beautiful to see you both working together. I know you're both in the Sacramento area, so just to see these two colleagues holding this space, I really appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, Brian, for all that you prepared and managing your own slides. I really wish I kept wanting, I wish I could have, but you did amazingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tess.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder if there's any
Oh,
questions,
yeah.
or you want to have a
So-
moment for questions, or Alice, do you want to say anything?
So we'll have some time. We actually have an online bulletin board that folks could ask questions because we won't have time to maybe go. We'll see if we have time at the end of today.
Okay.
And I also wanted to, you gave so many resources at the end, and that's wonderful. We'll have on the participant portal, you can go and there's a resource page for different books, places to purchase them, where you can get the images. And some of the documents, Brian, that you've put together are also on that page with the connection between the senses, the zodiac, and in each image. So go there and find all those resources as you want to listen along or go back to the recording.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
I would also just like to add one more resource, and that is if you want to see other images, there are other workshops that Alice and I have done together. And if you go to the website called wisecosmos.org, you will also find there are several talks and workshops that Alice and I have done before together, and there's quite a bit there at the Wise Cosmos site. There are also some various videos online.
Wonderful. Yes. Angela put that in the chat. That's
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Okay, so now we'll be able to, in our Holy Nights work coming up, we'll be able to work with each image. And at the end, we will do, I think, speech in Eurythmy together. So Alice is joyfully here to share with us about, I think, speech and to show us how to do it. And so we can start to work with that on our own. And yeah, thank you for being here with us. Alice works as a therapeutic eurythmist and also a eurythmist in Waldorf schools and with children and in the Sacramento area. We're just so glad to have you here. Thank you.
So you've been so patient and sitting. So why don't you just stand up and stretch up to those beautiful angelic cherub yet to be born images? Yes, do you remember? If you can, just stand up and stretch, not overstretch, to those wonderful cherub unbornness all behind you. And now this beautiful, you could say, meditation given for eurythmist, I think, speech. If you could do this first in standing, if you can squeeze your right foot and then nod your head and then squeeze your left foot and then stretch your right hand and then stream over to your left hand and go down to your right foot again. We're going to lower the arms just a little bit so that you stand eventually in that 5-pointed star that Ryan has beautifully described. So this little exercise you can do to awaken within you a feeling for right foot, a little squeeze, streaming up to your head, streaming down to your left foot, streaming over to your right hand. It's not too high, it's low. Streaming over to your left hand, that you stand in this 5-pointed star from the left hand down to your right foot again. And you can do this also in lying down after not feeling a little bit ill or something, that you can really feel these streams love to be met in you. Now, the wonderful thing about I think speech, it begins with the sense of I, then thinking, think, and then speaking. So the sense of the ego, the sense of thinking, the sense of the word speaking. We're going to do it slowly together, if you'd like, from our eurythmy center, the heart, the collarbone, as if Adam in paradise surveyed all of the animals, all of the plants, all of the creatures in paradise. But God Father said, they don't have a name. Adam, give them a name. I think the speech. I think the name. Then Adam spoke. I speak. The right foot goes out a little bit. The hands go to the larynx. I speak. And now the hands go down to the heart and the left foot goes out. So here we stand in a pentagram by I have spoken. Because the names that Adam gave were good. They were the right names. But when he looked for his name, it was not there. He had to seek it in the spirit. And now the next gesture, the feet go far apart. I seek for myself my name in the spirit. And you feel a connection between hand and foot, just as a gesture. And slowly the left foot comes in, the hands come down as if they were at the top of the head, as if there was a fine, fine membrane, a fine a door, a fine opening. I feel myself, I feel my name within myself, within all that I am trying to become. And now Adam knew, being back on earth, I am on the way to the spirit, to myself. From his feet, from Pisces, up through to the Trinity. And you may also do it. I am on the way to the spirit, to myself. So we do the whole thing to close. Ich denke die Rede, I think the speech. Ich rede, I speak. Ich habe geredet, I have spoken. Ich suche mich im Geiste, I seek for myself in the spirit. Ich fühle mich in mir, I feel myself within myself. Ich bin auf dem Wege zum Geiste, zu mir. I am on the way to the spirit, to myself, my name, my ID. Blessed Christmas to all of you in all the places of life and where you are. Thank you so much. And thank you, Tess, and thank you, Katrina, and thank you, Angela, and thank you, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you, everyone holding this space, and yeah, blessings on this Advent, solstice, Christmas, and whatever you celebrate in your home and spirit. We are so happy to be with you in this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Tess. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Blessings. There was a question in the chat. What was the sense associated with Sagittarius? It's the sense of balance connected with Sagittarius. That's just to wrap that up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for yes, thank you.
Thank you, Alice, for that beautiful, I think, speech, and Tess and everyone. Bless you.
Yeah, blessings. And I'm going to blow up my candle now too.
Okay, good.
Can't forget that. Close the space.
Good. Good. Blessings. Take care.